Fox News alert happening right now. Thousands of New York City police officers, firefighters, and city employees are marching across the Brooklyn Bridge in protest of the city's vaccine mandate. Many are wearing their job T-shirts and holding "My Body, My Choice" signs, as well as the American flag. Mayor de Blasio has warned city workers if they don't get the vaccine by Friday, they will be put on unpaid leave. And now the CDC is planning to, quote, educate those who are hesitant to get the shot. Here's CDC Director Rochelle Walensky.
We believe it is very important to get these people vaccinated. There is a plan, should these people not want to be vaccinated, towards education and counseling to get people the information they need so that they are feeling comfortable in getting vaccinated.
Vivek, something about the phrase re-education and get these people on board seems pretty strikingly similar to a really tragic chapter in our globe's history.
Well, look, when I see those images of people protesting, I don't see vaccines of COVID-19 being at the heart of the issue. I see public trust in our leaders as being the heart of that issue. And here's an interesting fact, Emily. The majority of people who are refusing COVID-19 vaccinations actually have been voluntarily vaccinated against mumps, measles, rubella, tetanus, DPT, diphtheria. I could continue to go on. You have to ask yourself why. And it is because when it came to COVID-19, our public health leaders have lied and lied rampantly. You actually saw last week the NIH shyly admitting the fact that actually it had been lying to the public about having funded gain-of-function research, the very kind of research in the Wuhan lab that could have resulted in the origin to this pandemic. They lied about it. Now, a lot of people may say, well, vaccinations and the origin of the pandemic, those are two different issues. It's not. When it comes to COVID-19, public leaders, including public health leaders, have given the public no reason to trust them. And I mark my words, it is only going to make the problem of public trust even worse if you force people to accept something that they don't automatically trust on their own. And I say this as somebody who wishes that more people were vaccinated. I think the people who are responsible for that failure are actually the public health leaders and the leaders of our institutions who have been rampantly lying at every step from the origin of this pandemic to what to do about it. And that's what we need to own up to fix it.
And Tommy, on that note of public elected officials and public leadership, it was they who designated first responders, firefighters, and law enforcement and health workers as the heroes of the pandemic. And all of a sudden, the tone has shifted mightily, and we have all the way up to our president saying that we should be angry, condemning those who have chosen not to be vaccinated, or as Vivek points out, simply resist the mandate, even if they themselves are vaccinated. These men and women are absolutely the backbone of our society. We know that they are heroes every day and they are public servants, and yet now they are being cast aside and vilified as public enemy number one.
Let's also juxtapose this to what we just discussed in our first segment, illegal immigration. We've got Americans, law-abiding Americans, decent, hardworking Americans who have been going to work for 2 years during a pandemic, dealing with health risks, safety risks, and doing it because they needed to do their job to put food on the table for their families. Those decent, law-abiding, hardworking Americans are now being treated like criminals, and you have hundreds of thousands, now well over 1 million illegal immigrants who have invaded into this country, and they are being treated like upstanding citizens. But I'd also like to say this. When we see this protest in Brooklyn and we see these workers standing up, when I saw those images, nothing made me feel more proud to be an American, because I saw Americans of every color, every shape, every size, every gender, and probably every political affiliation standing together in the name of freedom. That's American as it gets, and I'm so proud of my fellow Americans for standing up.
Amen. Harris, part of what is so troubling is the notion of that, again, the reprogramming in education, where you are automatically branded an enemy. You are automatically branded, frankly, a criminal in some sectors if you dare to even question, if you dare to expect what we were promised in the beginning, which were exceptions and other alternatives. And here it seems that not only the encroachment has happened, it has thinned everything out, but now there's been an absolute criminalization happening of these people who are daring to question.
So one thing that we talked about during the commercial break, Kayla, was the fact that across some sectors of the United States, the vaccine mandates actually are working. And we want to acknowledge that. I mean, it's difficult to say exactly why in some sectors. We know that meatpacking plants were a place where COVID was rampant. We know that those areas and jobs unseen, often it was a problem. So you do have that, and that's what Biden is talking about when he says that. That the problem is we don't know what those numbers look like. because their job's unseen oftentimes. And so when we say, oh, well, they're popular, well, are we talking a small percentage of people? I mean, what are we talking about here? Because the ones who are in the streets walking out the American flag and what it means in this country, and that is not to be mandated to do the things that you know that you can be counted on to do right because you're essential workers, police officers, first responders, and all that. When we see that, we see the big numbers. And so we wonder, well, when Biden's talking about they're working, how many numbers are they working among? Okay, that's one thing. The other is something that Vivek was pointing to. How do we get to the point where we can change the messengers? Because if the message has always been, and it was working with President Trump, it was working. And don't let anybody fool you that we weren't almost up to 1 million shots a day when President Trump was in office, because we were. So when Biden says two things that are wrong, that he came up with a shot, which I think he walked that back pretty quickly, or somebody did on his behalf, but he also did not, you know, he wasn't the first person to get us to those big numbers, to those big highs, close to 1 million and beyond, right? So we know that the message was not broken, but the messengers have been broken. And what do messengers do when they break? They lie, they obfuscate, they manipulate. Maybe we change the messengers at this point. Maybe the public wants to hear from some people that they can trust. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
And Vivek sort of pointed to that as well, that the erosion of trust because of that lack of faith in the messaging.
So maybe we don't hear from whomever it is, people. I'll treat him like Voldemort. I won't say his name, but he knows who he is.
Don't conjure him. And to the point you made in the last block, however, Governor DeSantis takes a different approach, and $5,000 in sunny Florida is probably looking more and more amazing by the day to the first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters that should absolutely be our primary and most respected members of society. Absolutely.
Absolutely.